Fazil Abed European University 2013 Open Society Prize will now be conferred upon you by the founder and honorary chairman of CEU, George Soros.
We've been rereading The Open Society and Its Enemies, the book after which the Open Society Prize is named, whose author, Karl Popper, was the prize's first recipient. I first read this book 50 years ago when I was much closer in age to those in this graduating class. It was a different time and place. My country, Bangladesh, had not yet achieved independence, and the world's great powers were locked in struggle between freedom and totalitarianism. But what strikes me today is how relevant many of Popper's prescriptions still are, particularly for my own field, which is the poverty alleviation of poverty. For those about to graduate, it is likely that most of you, at some point in your lives, will question whether the path you have taken was the correct one. For me, this moment came following the cyclone that struck Bangladesh in 1970, an event that is still considered one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. I was working at the time for a large multinational corporation, a valuable experience in its own right. I remember visiting coastal villages struck by the cyclone, seeing hundreds of dead bodies strewn on the ground. It seemed to me that life I was leading was completely irrelevant. After my country's independence, I began working to try to help the poor in Bangladesh. My early colleagues and I initially thought that BRAC would be a short-term effort. But the realities of entrenched poverty soon changed our minds. We began working in a host of areas: agriculture, healthcare, human rights, microfinance, education, wherever the poor faced obstacles. We found that poverty was so entrenched that only a long-term effort of social and economic transformation would uproot it. And this task became my life's work. I have learned much along the way. Perhaps the most important thing I learned was that when you create the right conditions, poor people will do the hard work of defeating poverty themselves. I learned the importance of having lamps to illuminate your path, even when the precise course is unclear. For me, one of those lamps was Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator who wrote a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which had a profound effect on me. Freire's ideas of conscientization, or raising critical consciousness, informed us in our belief that poor people, especially women, can be organized for power, and that with the right set of organizational tools, they can become actors in history. This, to me, is the meaning of an open society. A society where everyone has the freedom to realize their full potential and human rights.
It's today that the young technological wizards of Bangladesh coming from the villages are as brilliant in terms of developing applications which can save the world and which have huge collaboration potential in replicating micro-franchises as anywhere on the planet. This brings us to BCash, which is BRAC's cashless banking. It is the most exciting example of all